EastEnders spoilers follow for Thursday's, April 30th episode, which is now available to stream on BBC iPlayer. Phil Mitchell, Steve McFadden, made it his mission to fulfill Nigel Bates, Paul Bradley, wish for him to live life, making a series of actions that his best mate would have been proud of. Nigel passed away in a care home following a battle with dementia. His friends and family gathered to say their farewells in the hours beforehand, with wife Julie, Karen Henthorne, believing that he was hanging on to see Phil one last time. Phil had not visited Nige since he went into the care home. But after some persuasion from his loved ones, particularly brother Grant Ross Kemp, he arrived just in the nick of time to say his goodbyes. In Nigel's head, he was on a beach with Phil, and the reason he didn't let go was because he wanted to know that his best friend would be okay when he'd gone. Phil, as viewers will recall, previously struggled with his mental health. Nigel, who returned to the square in 2024, proved instrumental in helping him get the help and support he needed, promising to be there for Phil, who vowed to return the favor by supporting him through his dementia journey. In emotional scenes at the end, Phil promised Nigel that he'd be okay without him, telling him it was okay to let go now. Nigel subsequently died. Peace, knowing his mate would be fine. Thursday's offering of the BBC One soap picked up just seconds after his death, with devastated Julie giving her sweetheart one last kiss goodbye before leaving the care home hand-in-hand with Phil, who has been her rock over the past year. As word of Nigel's death reached the square, the Slaters planned to honor his memory with a special get-together, where they would screen the film he made at Christmas. Julie was overwhelmed by the effort everyone had gone to, and in emotional scenes, she reflected on Nigel's decision to return to Walford after all those years, commenting that she gets it now because the square was in his bones. She thanked a heartbroken Phil, whose well-being was the subject of much concern for his loved ones, with Linda Carter, Kelly Bright, worried about how he's going to cope without his best mate. Phil took himself back to number 55, where he sat in silence in the living room's signature armchair, fighting tears. But after looking at a picture of himself and Nigel, the former mechanic grabbed a lighter from the shelf and smiled to himself. In a bid to honor his friend's wishes of not sitting in the dark all day and letting life pass him by, Phil dragged the armchair in question out onto the square and set fire to it, much to the concern of his loved ones. But Phil was smiling as he told everyone that this is what Nigel would have wanted. Inviting them all inside, he and Grant regaled them with stories and memories of their beloved Nige, putting on some music and encouraging everyone to dance like Nigel. As the Walford residents got to their feet and emulated Nigel's signature dance style, Phil took the photo of himself and Nige in hand and, placing the skimming stone he'd given to his best pal on top of it, he smiled fondly. "Thanks, mate," he said. "Thanks. No, you're crying." Phil joined his friends and family, who were all enjoying a boogie, as the credits rolled atop the photograph of the legendary show icon and his best friend Nigel, their unique friendship captured perfectly in the picture. In the dim glow of the Queen Vic, the usual hum of laughter and clinking glasses had fallen into a rare, uneasy silence. Walford wasn't used to quiet. Not like this. Not the kind that settled deep in your chest and refused to shift. Tonight, the square felt different. Tonight it was saying goodbye. No one had expected EastEnders to deliver a moment quite like this. At the center of it all stood Phil Mitchell, a man known for his iron fists, his sharp tongue, and a heart he kept locked tighter than the arches after hours. Grief didn't suit him. It never had. But grief doesn't ask permission. And tonight it had claimed him. Nigel. The name alone was enough to send ripples through the room. Nigel Bates, the joker, the optimist, the man who always found a way to smile even when life gave him every reason not to. He had been the kind of person Walford rarely produces, kind without condition, loyal without question. And now he was gone. Phil stood by the bar, a glass in his hand he hadn't touched. His eyes scanned the room, faces full of memories, faces that Nigel had once made laugh. For a moment it looked like Phil might just walk out. That would have been easier. That would have been him. But he didn't. Instead he cleared his throat. The sound alone was enough to silence the whispers. "I ain't good at this," Phil muttered, his voice rough like gravel dragged across concrete. A few people shifted, unsure what was coming. Phil Mitchell giving a speech? That was something no one had on their bingo card. "I ain't good with words or feelings or any of that rubbish," he continued, a faint, almost bitter smile tugging at his lips. Nigel was, though. Always had something to say, didn't he? Even when you didn't want to hear it. A soft ripple of laughter broke through the tension. Phil looked down at his glass, turning it slowly in his hand. Used to do my head in, he did. Always hanging about, cracking jokes, trying to get a rise out of me. Thought he was funny. He paused. The room softened. Phil inhaled sharply, as if the next words physically hurt to bring out. I never told him that. Not once. Never told him he mattered. Never said thank you. His voice cracked barely, but enough. I spent years pushing him away. Thought that's what I was supposed to do. Keep people at arm's length. Keeps you safe, don't it? He looked up, eyes glistening now, no longer hiding it. But Nigel, he didn't care about any of that. He stuck around anyway. No matter how many times I knocked him back, he'd still be there. Smiling. Like an idiot. Another small wave of laughter, this time through tears. Phil swallowed hard. Truth is, he was the best of us. Better than me, that's for sure. Better than most. The silence that followed was heavy, but not empty. It was full. Full of everything left unsaid. Phil placed his glass down on the bar, the faint clink echoing louder than it should have. I don't do tributes, he said quietly. Don't do goodbyes. He hesitated. But if I did, I'd say this. He straightened slightly, as if summoning strength he didn't know he had. Nigel Bates, you were a pain in the backside. You talked too much, laughed too loud, and you never knew when to quit. A beat. And Walford's gonna be a much quieter place without you. His voice softened, almost breaking completely now. And I reckon a much worse one too. A tear slipped free. Phil didn't wipe it away. Wherever you are. I hope you're still annoying someone. Still cracking those terrible jokes. Still being you. He glanced around the room, at Sharon, at Ian, at faces that had shared a lifetime with Nigel. Because we ain't gonna forget you. Not here. Not ever. Phil reached for the glass again, lifting it slightly. To Nigel. The room echoed him, voices overlapping, trembling. To Nigel. But Phil wasn't finished. As the murmurs faded, he did something no one expected. From his pocket, he pulled out a small, worn photograph. The edges were creased, the colors faded with time. He looked at it for a long moment before placing it gently on the bar. It was a picture of him and Nigel years ago. Laughing. Not arguing. Not fighting. Laughing. I kept this, Phil admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Don't even know why. Guess, part of me didn't want to forget what it was like, having someone like him around. He tapped the photo lightly. Didn't deserve him. But I'm glad I had him. That was it. No grand gesture. No dramatic exit. Just truth. Raw, unfiltered, and devastatingly human. Phil stepped back, the weight of the moment settling over him. For once he didn't try to shake it off. He didn't hide. He didn't run. He stood there surrounded by people, yet completely alone in his grief. And somehow that made it all the more powerful. Because for the first time in a long time, Phil Mitchell wasn't the toughest man in Walford. He was just a man who had lost his friend. And in that quiet, heartbreaking moment, as the camera lingered on the photograph, and the flicker of emotion in Phil's eyes, EastEnders delivered something unforgettable. Not just a goodbye, but a tribute that said everything Nigel ever deserved to hear. Even if it came too late. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to EastEnders Spoilers Official.